Of Budget Subcommittee number 4. We're going to proceed in order on the agenda, page 8, except that we're going to pull from the vote-only calendar first, item 0950, the State Treasurer's Office, for discussion. And at the same time, we will also, while the Treasurer is here, we will take up item 0950, issue 1 on the discussion vote calendar. So if I could ask those who are in attendance who will speak to those issues to come forward, and while we do, I'd ask to establish a quorum.
Senator Roth?
Here.
Senator Wen? Senator Pan?
Here.
Quorum is established. Okay, let's take up item 0950, issue 4 from the vote-only calendar, now for discussion. Strategic Information Technology Initiative Spring Finance Letter. And before we do, let's have folks identify themselves for the record, starting with my left, your right, ma'am.
I'll introduce at the next item.
Well, I'm Jan Ross. I'm the CIO with the State Treasurer's Office.
Good morning, Chairman. I'm John Chung, the California State Treasurer.
Morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Alan Gordon, Deputy Treasurer. Dominic Adair, Department of Finance.
Okay.
Greg Brust, Department of Finance.
Good to have you back, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Kirstein, Legislative Analyst Office.
Good to have you back.
Lourdes Morales, Legislative Analyst Office.
Good morning. Okay, so as a vote-only item, this staff recommendation on this was to recommend approving one initial position for Data and Government Transparency Unit, and approving as a limited term, revising a previous vote, certain technical and support services positions. Last time I heard this, my preference was to allow you, I know we're concerned about overpopulating government and agencies, but my preference was to allow you the opportunity to, whether it was for a limited term or on some other basis, have the staff that you believe was necessary to redesign the website and web page in the manner that you thought appropriate for the operation of the State Treasurer's Office. And as I recall, that was somewhere around 5 FTEs, right?
That's correct.
And I think I asked you all to get together with Finance and with the LAO to try to work this thing out consistent with my view that you be given some limited opportunity to field a new operation that was going to enhance the way the Treasurer's Office did its business. Consistent with our concern that we keep some control over things here and have some reporting requirement so that we keep track of projects to make sure, not that yours would, but to make sure that things don't get out of hand before we wake up over here and start asking questions.
Yeah.
So what happened between now and then that resulted in this staff recommendation? So who's best to talk to that? Is it you?
I'm happy to address what we did at the State Treasurer's Office. I did meet with the LAO. I provided them with additional information. I provided your staff with additional information and Department of Finance with additional information. And we had multiple meetings outside of this in an attempt to persuade them as to the benefits of this proposal.
Okay. Finance, where are you on this? What are you willing to support?
We fully support all positions and funding that was in the original proposal.
And the money comes from where?
It's a redirect from internal funds in the Treasurer's Office. We haven't had 7 years of upgrades in technology in the Treasurer's Office, so we've fallen behind at times. A lot of the processes are operated manually, and so we wanted to make sure that for productivity and efficiency opportunities that we take full advantage and upgrade. And so the BCAs, I chair 14 BCAs in the Treasurer's Office. They have cited the productivity concerns, and they wanted to harness the opportunities provided by technology, so they're willing to use their funds to transfer to technology upgrades.
So no new money, you're using internal money to fund the new position.
Special
That's-
funds, all internal, redirect, and we provide the boards, commissions, and authorities with all of their IT support. They don't receive it from any other source. We are their IT support.
LAO?
Helen, Kirstine, we do very much appreciate having met again with STO and the additional information that was provided. However, we still do have some outstanding questions about the nature of the workload and the timeline, and so we still think it would be valuable to consider this in a January process.
Okay, so let me tell you what I'd like to do, and then you all can tell me whether it works or not. I'd like to approve and you need 5.
Yes, we're asking for 5 for the Data and Government Transparency Unit, correct. The whole request is for 11 positions, but we are asking for 5 for the Data Transparency website, online applications workload, yes.
And then we did something last time, but we're going to rescind that, I guess, per this recommendation and convert the technical and support services positions to limited term as well. Are you willing to work with that?
Well, it would be my preference with the agreement that we made in the prior hearing that I would submit a negative BCP in the event I find that there is no workload necessary for these people after a 2-year period. The original vote was to place all of the people on a permanent funding. And in fact, the 3 people that they've recommended for technical services limited term is a little bit of an mischaracterization. One of those is a deputy director CIO, and then 2 are for backlog. One was technical services and one was application development. But as the treasurer said, we do have 7 years of a lack of addressing any of the IT needs and growth at the treasurer's office, and we feel that their workload is warranted for the 2 additional people and the deputy CIO, and we would like to see that those remain permanently funded.
So what's the consequence of using the negative BCP approach as opposed to limited term? Can somebody enlighten me, finance, LAO? Is there a negative to going with not to use the double negative, but negative BCP?
I mean, with the negative BCP, it takes, I mean, if we build the amounts into the budget systems going forward, it just has to be a check on it in a couple of years, to check with the treasurer's office to see, how are those positions being utilized, if there's a need to keep it going. If not, there would have to be an agreement to do a negative BCP so we can, adjust the systems accordingly.
We apparently confirmed that last time. So let's do this. Then I'll take some comment and then some public comment. Let's approve the 5 positions on a limited term basis. Let's allow the negative BCP agreement from last time to stand as to the technical and support services positions. Let's require a report back to this subcommittee and its staff by March 1 of 2016 with respect to the utilization of the positions that we are in the process of approving, so we can keep track of this. And then certainly to the extent that the technical and support services positions need to be adjusted, we'll expect a negative BCP at the 2-year point.
Absolutely.
And then
Thank
we'll
you.
take a look at the 5 positions and what they've been used for with respect to website development in about 12 months or a little less, and see what we need to do about that. Does that work?
I'd be very
It does.
pleased with that.
So that's the staff recommendation is modified. Any comment, finance? Any further comment?
We have no concern with that.
LAO, any extraordinary concerns? I appreciate your comments and your diligence in working this issue.
No concerns, thank you.
Any public comment on this particular item, 0950, issue number 4? Could I have a motion?
Just briefly say thank you. I think we look forward to your work, and I move the recommendation as outlined by the chair. Thank you.
Okay, please call the roll.
Senator Roth?
Aye.
Senator Nguyen? Senator Pan?
Go ahead and, while Mr. Treasurer, you're here. Let's go ahead and take 0950 from the discussion and vote calendar. It's issue number 1, debt management system may revision. I would note that the staff recommendation is approve with the revised procurement approach. So anyone want to present?
I'd be happy to. So in 1314, the State Treasurer's Office submitted a feasibility study report requesting approval to fund the replacement of the debt management system that's currently in operation at the STO. An analysis had been done at that point in time, and the recommendation from the FSR process was to build a brand-new system. Following in that path, a draft RFP was sent to the vendor community this February. And we expected feedback from the vendors along the line of, can you clarify this specific language, or can you, are there any requirements that could be reduced or resolved in another way? But the vendor feedback that we got indicated that it's highly unlikely we can get the solution that we're looking for from any one vendor, and that it will be extremely complex, more than was anticipated, and highly costly. And based on all of the lessons learned that we have brought with us, as well as the status of many IT projects in the state of California, we felt that we needed to heed the vendor feedback and go back and do another analysis. So we engaged our IV&V vendors, our independent validation and verification vendors, and our procurement vendor. And we asked them to analyze our current system and determine if we could bring in skilled experts above the level of the skill in our own in-house staff and use what we already have that's working well and build the other requirements on top of it. And after their analysis, they determined that, yes, that is a viable option if we go to external resources. And by doing that, in simple terms, we just simply don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is what I felt like we were doing. I came into this late. This had preceded my joining the Treasurer's Office by 2 years, but coming in with fresh eyes and lessons learned from other IT projects, I really wanted to examine, is the risk that we're proposing appropriate? And I felt that the risk could be reduced and the cost could be reduced and the scope could be reduced if we could find the correct level of expertise. So we met with Carlos Ramos and his team, and they concurred with the recommendation from our independent third-party advisors, saying, yes, we believe that this is an appropriate solution to simplify it and build on what you have. And then by doing that, we take it out of the request for proposal process, which significantly shrinks the risk exposure to the state of California, because we can then use the master services agreement that DGS has already negotiated with the IT vendor community. And the benefit to that is that they can't redefine the terms and conditions of the contract. They've already agreed to a set standard language of terms and conditions, and they've already agreed to set salary rates for 7 technical classifications. So overall, the benefit exists to shorten the timeline, to reduce the cost, reduce the risk, and bring this solution to deployment much sooner than we would have achieved had we just set the entire thing aside and tried to build new. So our recommendation is to change the procurement approach, keep the funding in place for the 4 personnel that were already slated for this year so that they continue in this analysis and this timeline so we can get to procurement much sooner. Under the prior procurement plan, we would not have awarded a contract until March 2017. And under this alternative procurement plan, we believe we can award the contract early in 2016. And that alone saves a full year off of this project's life cycle.
So how does this relate, and how do you plan to relate this to the Department of Technology's new procurement protocol with the 3 types of involvement, from limited engagement to fully engaged, that is being the Department of Technology's involvement in your end of the project? How does that all dovetail? And as you may know, I've had some extended conversations in this room with the Department of Technology about who's drafting contracts, how many contracts have they drafted, what are the provisions, how does this all work? Because whatever we did in the past, regardless of who did it, didn't quite work, and they've spent a lot of time and presumably money and certainly devoted a lot of attention to developing a rather detailed protocol for IT procurement moving forward. Is that a fair question?
It is a fair question, yes. And we are working, in fact, we have Caltech's State Procurement Division staff on contract to us to provide us with procurement consultation services. They provide oversight, guidance, and they make sure that we stay within the new protocol that Carlos Ramos is currently working out. In addition, we have Caltech's independent project oversight consultant on our staff, on contract to us, and they make sure that as oversight, we are meeting all the goals and objectives of the project.
I think that's
Two of the three.
And that's sort of involvement level 2, right? I mean, that's beyond advice, so they've now embedded somebody in your team
That's correct.
to work with your in-house IT folks to make sure this thing stays on the rails.
So, that's correct.
Perfect.
So what this procurement change does is it elevates this procurement out of the negotiation process. When you spoke previously about the contracts that were negotiated and the conditions under which vendors would supply deliverables and those sorts of things, under very large procurement processes, through the RFP process, that's all open for negotiation every time a contract is awarded. This would mitigate that risk by using the master services agreement where the IT vendors have already certified through the Department of General Services. These are our staff, these are our rates, and we will accept the state's terms and conditions. So there is a finite pool of candidate vendors that will qualify to respond to our request where we are not renegotiating the terms and conditions for this engagement. They've already accepted the state's terms and conditions and said, here's our rates.
Well, without getting into it, because I'm not sure that without the comic book version I would understand it, we do need to take a look at any contracts that were drafted in the past with respect to the terms and conditions, in particular, I call them off-ramps, opportunities to terminate, what we get to keep when termination occurs, to make sure that we quantify what we have to pay when termination occurs, if it occurs prior to the normal end of the contract. Because we've had some problems with that in the past. This particular master contract, DGS master agreement, may be perfectly fine. I just ask from my personal perspective that you all re-engage with the Department of Technology and make sure that they have fully vetted whatever it is that we're going to rely on or you're going to rely on to make sure that to the extent we can, we try to prevent a problem in the future. And if it calls for negotiating a new agreement so you can field whatever system you need to field, we do that.
Thank you.
Dr. Pan, any questions? Finance, any concerns on this one?
No, we are supportive of the approach.
LAO, any comments or concerns?
We didn't raise any specific concerns. However, we did note that there was a change in this process in the procurement strategy since the May revised proposal was submitted, and so we had just recommended that the department report at the hearing on and provide further information consistent with your staff recommendation, just to make sure that the legislature is comfortable with this revised approach and that the resources are still necessary at the same levels. Thank you.
Well, as with the previous item, I'd ask that you provide periodic reports. I don't know that I need to be quite as specific as I was on the first item, but I would like to know, what comes of the contract review and how the new Department of Technology protocol is working out or not.
Okay.
So we learn ahead of time. Not that we are experts. We, to some extent, defer to those of you in the field who know more than we do about these IT systems oftentimes, but we do want to make sure that we get one that works.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you do too. Any public comment on this item? If not, the motion is to approve the May revision request with the revised procurement approach as detailed here. Is there a motion? It's been moved. Please call the roll.
Senator Roth?
Aye.
Senator Nguyen? Senator Pan?
Aye.
2-0.
Thank you.
think that's it. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. We've got one more. You have another one? One more.
Yes. If it pleases the committee, there's one more item we'd like to hear, which is item 0971, the California Alternative Energy and Advanced Transportation Financing Authority. The treasurer serves as the chair of our committee.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I didn't realize that, or I would have called that.
I didn't want to distract from IT.
This is on page 13. Okay, item 0971, issue 1, extension of Renewable Resource Trust Fund repayment date. We have one new player joining us. Sir, your name?
I'm Mark Hutchison, Deputy Director for Administration for the California Energy Commission.
Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Susan from the Department of Finance.
Kathy Madison, Department of Finance.
Thank you. Good to see you again, ma'am. Okay, who wants to present? Dina?
And my name is Dina Creo. I'm the Executive Director of the California Alternative Energy and Advanced Transportation Financing Authority. From here on out, we'll just call it by the acronym of CAPFA. CAPFA is a financing authority under the State Treasurer's Office. Its statutory mission is to assist the state in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, increasing the deployment of sustainable and renewable energy, implementing measures that increase energy efficiency, and creating high-quality employment opportunities in the state. To support these goals, CAPFA provides financial assistance and credit enhancements to leverage private capital. We're currently administering a portfolio of about $140 million in financial assistance for the state. The item in front of you is a request to modify loan repayment language, in essence to shift the repayment of a $2.4 million loan from the Renewable Trust Fund due in June 2016 to 3 installment payments in 2017-18 and paying the loan completely in 2019. The loan was provided to CAPFA in 2010 to provide seed funding to launch our sales and use tax exclusion program, which is fee-based and designed to ultimately be self-supporting. Our STE program provides an exclusion for both state and local sales tax for green manufacturers. So biofuels, we have some amazing projects that take food waste to energy, actually fueling cars. We have another amazing project, just to give some examples, that takes animal and yard waste and actually creates biodiesel for airplanes. And they have a contract with United Airlines down in Paramount. And as well as advanced transportation, such as electric vehicles and drivetrains. So fully supportive of the governor's and the legislature's intent to implement the 50-50-50 plan. The program was later expanded in 2012 to include advanced manufacturers. These types of projects include biotechnology, advanced materials, aerospace. And we provide a financial assistance in about 8.42% in equipment purchased, really making that marginal difference for California manufacturers trying to target that area of growth. We also conduct a net benefit evaluation and quantify the fiscal and environmental benefits for each project. By May 1st in 2015, we'd approved about $3.6 billion in manufacturing equipment purchases, which equates to about $297 in an award, so that's since 2010. And these projects are, of those active projects, we're helping to retain and create about 12,000 jobs. Based on the program's evaluation methodologies, 1,000 of those are attributable to the STE, and the projects are estimated to result in over $360 million in fiscal benefits to the state and $80 million in environmental benefits. That said, given the program is fee-based and these are nascent technologies, our fees have been inconsistent or a little bit erratic over the last several years for a few reasons. One, the economic downturn. Two, the impact to the solar market here in California, although we just did approve a new solar manufacturer, as well as CAPFA's ability to conduct outreach to new applicants with staffing vacancies. So we believe that we are creating a new normal. The proposed repayment plan is reasonable, and we ask for the committee's support in an aye vote.
What's the current condition, maybe you said it and I missed it, of the Resource Trust Fund because we're delaying repayment?
Mark Hutchison again. The fund has sufficient reserves to cover staffing costs, and so the slight delay in repayment won't affect the program delivery.
What's sufficient reason? I'm just trying to get an idea what the fund. What's the condition of the fund financially in terms of the balance? What are the ongoing requirements for the Renewable Resource Trust Fund, and what are the cash requirements to cover its obligations? Is
Sure.
that a fair question?
Fair question. We're expending about $5 million a year for staff. There's about 28 staff and some operational costs. Right now, the fund reserve is about $20 million. So that covers it through probably 2020, 21.
And that's a sufficient cushion,
Yes,
because remind me, the repayment date as extended for the loan is?
would be completed by 2019, I believe.
Okay. So from your perspective, the delay in repayment is not going to disadvantage or impair in any way the obligations of the Renewable Resource Trust Fund?
Correct.
Dr. Pan?
Actually, just edify me. So can you just explain me briefly what the Renewable Resource Trust Fund, where the funds come from, what they're used for?
Sure. It was established during deregulation back in the late 1990s, and it created a number of renewable-driven programs, and it was funded from what they call the public goods charge, which was a fee collected by the investor-owned utilities. The funding actually stopped in 2012, but we have a core group of staff that implement the Renewable Portfolio Standard, the New Solar Homes Partnership Program, components of SB1, doing audits of solar installations, and also some related policy and reporting work.
So is this a fund that sounds like if you're not collecting any more money, is going to wind itself down?
Exactly, exactly.
And you said that was by, sorry, I know you said the date, but.
Yeah, roughly 2020, 21.
Right. All right, and then the other, we're delaying payment until 2019, so that's pretty close to the end date of the other fund.
Correct.
And payments will start in 2017.
Right, there's three, yeah. Okay, so, but you don't see any collision between the two?
No, I don't believe so.
Finance, any concerns or comments? LAO?
We haven't raised any concerns.
Public comment? Okay, seeing none. You noted the staff recommendation was to reject this proposal, and I think it was because Budget Committee staff requested some more detailed information regarding the condition of the Renewable Resource Trust Fund, et cetera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this open, and I'd ask for you all to get with budget staff and provide whatever documentation they need with respect to, one, the condition of the fund, the obligations of the fund, the impact of projected repayments beginning in 2017 on the fund, just to make sure that the lines all line up and that they cross when appropriate and don't cross when inappropriate. And we will deal with this before we wrap this budget revision up. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Is that it?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Ross. Thank you, Senator Pan.
Okay, let's go ahead and take up the remainder of the vote-only calendar. Those items are listed in the agenda.
This isn't voting on the two.
It's vote only, 9210.